What's up, everybody? Rob Ferretti here, and I've got some good news. We're going to talk about how this whole COVID-19 situation has affected my businesses and what I've done to respond to that and how I think that's positioning me in a pretty good spot for the remainder of the year. And I've got a really big decision to make. But let me fill you in first on what I'm wearing. I'm wearing an Adventure Drives t-shirt. I'm going to make 1,000 more of these. The ones that you get are actually a little bit better quality. This is the shirt. But I have one made so I can show you what it looks like so I can sell them to you. And this shirt, I'm going to make 1,000 of them, and I'm going to select a random person from the 1,000 people, same thing I did last year, and give somebody a spot on Adventure Drives 8007. That's coming up next month, July 18th to the 26th, starting in Seattle and ending in Jackson Hole. The little wrench in the operation this year, and that the Canadian border doesn't open up till 2 days after we're supposed to go there. So it's an entirely US-based trip. You can look at the details as to what the trip looks like in the link in the description. I will put the information as to what the trip is. And even better, I've got luggage tags that we're going to be giving out on the trip. I made extra ones. I'm going to give away 250 luggage tags to the first 250 people that buy a shirt. So that's a win-win. You win no matter what. And I'm going to be announcing the winner on July 4th. So we're going to do 1,000 shirts. Of that 1,000 people, one person will win. And what you're winning is going to be an entire spot, a full spot. So last year, I split it up. I had two winners split. So I had Preet came from, I think it was Estonia, and Braxton won from Calgary. And they came together in Europe. They met up. I paired them together. They got along pretty well, or very well as far as I know. And that went really well. This time I'm going to give away the full spot to one person. And that person can then bring a car. If you're bringing a car, your own car, I will pay to ship it from the continental United States. So if you're from Europe and you win, we got to talk about that, if you can even fly over here or not. It's July 18th to 26th. So just be aware, if you're buying a shirt and you're from Europe and you can't come, you can sell it to somebody in the US or something. You can still get the value out of it, but you can't come on the trip. But the winner likely has to be somebody from the US, and I will be not providing a car for them, but I will be providing their transport. So now say you win, you don't have a car. You know what? Very easy to find somebody you know with a car and be like, hey, Joe, you've got your Porsche. Joe, you got your Mustang, whatever you got. You want to come with me on this awesome trip? And I say Joe. Joe could be a guy or a girl. Like, I'm just saying, like, you can pick whoever you want. You're going to have the trump card there, and that you're going to be able to come on this trip, and you're going to be able to bring somebody with you. The only thing you're going to have to pay for is your own fuel, because everything else, I'm going to cover your flights, I'm going to cover your transport, and then the trip is essentially all-inclusive except for fuel. So that's a turnkey win for you. For a $20 t-shirt, you can ask those guys from last year, probably the best 20 bucks they've ever spent. We had a great time last year in Europe. We're going to have a great time in July. Scoop up a shirt. I'm going to order the shirts after I order them, because I'm not going to order 1,000. I can't order 200 of each size or something like that, because that's not how the orders range in. So once these are done, once the 1,000 shirts are hit, I'll close the sales on them. And then the winner will be announced on July 4th, pretty much in the video where I'm going to show you my ramp truck fully liveried out as Speed Force 1. And that's going to make me very happy to announce and bring so much joy to the world by announcing somebody winning a trip to Adventure Drives 8007. So if you don't want my stinking t-shirt, you don't want a chance to come on the trip for free, you can check out the link in the description for adventuredrives.com, and you can just sign up for it. We do sort of have spots left. We've got, it's just like sort of like a, we'll get to that later in the video. But we can accommodate extra people last minute now. So if you're interested in that, check the link in the description. Now to today's video, and I'm going to talk about what happened to my business in 1 second. Hey guys, what's up? Rob Ferretti here. I'm going to talk to you about, I'm just kidding. What's up, everybody? Rob Ferretti here, and go snag yourself a t-shirt. Link in the description, superspeedersmerch.com. But today I'm going to talk to you about my businesses, how the virus, we discussed it very early on in the year, how I thought it was going to impact my business, what I've done so far, how these lessons can sort of transfer over to other businesses, and where I'm at in both Adventure Drives and with my rental operation. Now, my rental operation is kicking butt right now. June was a very good month. It was lower than last year's revenue, but I didn't have as many cars. So what happened was I got very lucky with the timing of this whole pandemic in that it happened in March. Just so you know my timeline, we're super seasonal from Memorial Day to Labor Day, so that's like May, June, July, August, and September. That's the bulk of the revenue for the year. And the other months they do revenue, but not as much. But what I do is I keep a steady fleet, let's just say 10 cars for the off season, and then I get another 10 cars for the peak season. So I've got 20 cars in this location for the peak season, and then 10 cars in the off season. Since Memorial Day is in May, and that's when I usually have like full fleet, full 20 cars ready to go, I had it where this year coronavirus hit in like March. And that's when everything started to collapse. Now, I lost money in March. I lost money in April. I did have fixed overhead, did not generate nearly enough revenue to cover that. But my opportunity, I didn't lose out as much as in top line revenue year over year as I could have because I didn't start fleeting up. Fleeting up would have been a problem. Normally, if I didn't see that coming and I didn't react and we just said, yeah, our department for buying cars is going to start buying cars because that's what we do. We sort of took a step back, took a pause, and said, let's see what happens before we start buying cars. Now, in June, I did lose out on money if I did buy cars, but you didn't know that the economy, because now we're just opening up here in New York. Like, we're just starting. We still don't do indoor dining. Outdoor dining is great and all. Like, yeah, you seat some people on the sidewalks. You got like half occupancy, but that's not predictable. Like, if it rains, your entire night is gone as a restaurant. So it's really tough to sort of predict that. Companies are adapting, and the companies that are adapting are forging their way through it. The companies that aren't adapting or that don't have businesses that allow them to adapt are the ones that are really in trouble. So we were able to adapt. We were technically, and it's like gray area whether or not we were considered essential business or not. We're a rental company, right? So they deemed car rentals, auto repairs, like even though Cosmo's fixing Ferraris, he's auto repair. He's lumped into like you're essential, you can stay open. Not that really helps if nobody's bringing the customers in, but as a rental company, we were technically allowed to stay open, but like there was no customers, so like we lose the money anyway. So we were able to pause. Now I'm in a position where I need to buy cars, but remember, when I buy cars, I buy them in like April, and then I sell them in like October. So I get these extra 10 cars, just ballpark it at $1 million, just say 100,000 a piece. It's obviously some are 75, some are 150, whatever it is. So that $1 million in cars I did not purchase, right? And when I do purchase that $1 million in cars, there's certain costs that go into it. So like when you carry a car, you've got the interest expense, the cost of the capital. So say I put 20% down. So I put 20% down and putting $200,000 into it and borrowing $800,000. There's an interest expense to that $800,000. There's now the maintenance expense for like if any of those cars break during my holding period, I have to do maintenance, tires, oil changes, whatever. There's the depreciation, which is the cars cost me $1 million, but when I sell them for $900,000 or $800,000 after the 8-month holding period. So when you start adding all these up, and then there's the cost of borrowing, and the cost of borrowing, just say, pull a number, 10%, just for simple math. So and just let's assume we held them for a year, so it's costing me $120,000 to borrow that money. Then it costs me $200,000 in depreciation. Now you start adding this all up and you're like, all right, but what are these cars generating? So now when you look at the business in that way, you can see that when I'm not buying the cars, I'm not incurring any of the overhead, but I'm losing out on that top line revenue. Now, as I said, I got pretty lucky with when the pandemic hit that I was able to pause and not buy the cars. And I did lose money in that year over year revenue was down significantly. Just say like 50 or 60% in March and April. And March and April are months that are like they're profitable. We're coming out of the hibernation season. They're profitable. We're starting to generate money. So I lost money in those 2 months where normally I make money in those 2 months, but it wasn't as much money. It's not like I got less revenue during peak season. That's still off season technically for us. So now I'm in the dilemma, is it too late to buy these cars, right? If I buy these cars now and like I've normally got an 8-month holding period where I can generate enough revenue to offset the carrying cost of them. If I buy them now, am I too late? Now I've only got 2 months left. I've got July and August of peak season. So if I buy them in July and August and carry them, is the maintenance and the depreciation and all these costs that I mentioned, are they going to add up and I'm going to generate $100,000, but it's going to cost me $100,000 to bring them on? That's where I'm at. So maybe, and we don't know where this virus is going to go. So maybe the key is to just sort of hug tight, lower the target revenue for the year, and just understand that like it's better to be closer to the hip. You don't want to expand out. Say you run an umbrella rental on the beach. You don't want to go buy another 1,000 umbrellas like you normally do if there's a chance that you're only going to need 100 of them. So I think I may avoid it, because if I do buy the cars, worst case scenario, if I do buy all these cars and then we have another stay-at-home order and the virus comes back for a second wave and business takes a kick in the nuts again, now I'm sitting on all these cars, and whereas the values of the cars have come back from where they were, nobody was buying cars in February, March, April. Now people are buying cars again. If this hits again and there's a second wave, you may be in a situation where now you're sitting on all this additional overhead, additional cost, and the cars lose so much money that to get out of them, it could cost me a bunch. So we'll see what happens. The only cars I bought so far this year were the 2 C8s and the Porsche, and obviously I sold one of the C8s just to get out of it, so I didn't have that additional exposure. Feeling a little bit better about that. Adventure drives, completely different business, and the only impact we're really having is the border was closed. Now, we were keeping an eye on it, and they closed the border now. It was supposed to be open, or we thought it was going to be open on June 21st. Now they pushed it back to July 21st. Problem is, July 19th, we were supposed to cross into Canada. It's a big problem. And I think part of it was that Canadians were getting annoyed that even though the border was closed, a lot of Americans were using the Alaskan loophole and being like, we're just driving over to Alaska. And then they would drive up to Banff. And they're like, what are all these Americans doing here? So now they shut that down. They extended the border closing for another month. We polled our participants and said, hey guys, would you rather, because this is a great social distancing exercise, would you rather us postpone the trip if we have to move the dates, or would you rather us continue with the trip and just do a US only? And the overwhelming majority of people said US only. So now we're doing US only. We've modified that. We're changing our dining. We're adapting to the ever-changing social norms, which we don't know what they're going to be at the time when we're in different states. So now we're talking about like renting like ranches and everything and doing like private chefs to do dining outside the Grand Tetons at private ranches. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be a spectacular experience. We're modifying, we're adapting. That's what you have to do. And I'm looking forward to a great trip next month. I'm looking forward to a reasonable year. I'll let you know at the end of the year how this year ends up stacking up to previous years. And you'll obviously see in my videos if I start buying cars or if I don't buy additional cars, what I end up doing. But I think I've got at least 2 or 3 cars I have to pick up this month. Just to minimize the risk, it's sort of the happy medium to buy some cars and not all the cars. And we'll take some risk. I'm a little bit of a gambler. We'll see what happens. Not Michael Jordan style or Wayne Gretzky, but I'm a little bit of a gambler. And we'll see what happens. And I will take you along with me on the journey. So check out superspeedersmerch.com if you want to score one of these Adventure Drives t-shirts to potentially win a spot on the trip. I thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. So you guys are familiar with my other company, Adventure Drives, right? Well, this year we've got 2 trips coming up. One which is starting in Seattle and ending in Jackson Hole in July. That's going up through the Canadian Rockies, coming down through Banff, Yellowstone, Glacier National Park, and Grand Teton National Park. It's going to be phenomenal. Also, we're going to be going to Scotland in October. We're going to be doing Scotch distilleries, playing golf at St. Andrews if you want to do that, walking around, seeing lakes, waterfalls, driving the North Coast. It's going to be an amazing trip. Prices start as low as $2,500 per person for the shorter trip in Scotland, about double that for the longer trip in July. If you're interested in going, check out the link in the description.